We're 45 seconds late to our start because Bailey left us at the last possible moment, but now he's back.
I thought part of the time included this lovely time.
Well, I need you here for this lovely time because who else are we going to make fun of?
I was going to sneak in during this time and you weren't supposed to notice.
It's a secret.
That's right.
I see everything on my master screen here. You can't sneak around. I know
darn
everything. I know.
Darn it.
I'm such the overlord. Sorry. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Sidebar,
Good evening.
Good evening.
where we discuss
Good
stuff
evening.
and things with Michael and Bailey and Ashley and me
Yep.
and a cast of thousands in the chat. Or looks like 3 at the moment, but people will come.
A cast of threes.
Kind of close.
Yeah, close enough. 3, 1,000. It's all the same.
Numbers. Integers.
I know. Math is hard. All right, so tonight we're going to talk about the idea of drug dealers getting charged with murder if they sell to somebody and that person dies of an overdose. And this stems from a case that we saw a few days back from Judge Wolf in Tennessee, where it was a sentencing hearing, and that guy did sell something. His customer did OD, and he was found guilty and sentenced upon a second-degree murder charge. So it kind of brings up the whole point of, is this murder? Is it manslaughter? Is it nothing? Should there be more culpability on the ODE? You know, the person who
Died.
actually takes the drugs and engages in that poor behavior. You know, there's a lot of directions that this could go into, so this should be an interesting discussion. But before we got there, I wanted to share just a little bit of information with you guys, if that's okay. That might set the stage a little bit. Because this was a Tennessee case, but every state handles it a little differently, so I did just a little bit of research. And 31 states plus DC at the moment do have what is called a drug-induced homicide law. And that holds a person criminally liable if they furnish drugs to somebody and that results in the user's death. So the majority of states have some kind of law that covers this. It varies from state to state as exactly what happens. To go to the Tennessee example, which this is based upon, their law is known as the death by distribution law, and that does provide for a second-degree murder charge as a Class A felony. So specifically what this guy got, and that's if it's a Schedule 1 or 2 controlled substance. Minnesota has a similar law. They call it proximity causes, and that's a third degree there, punishable by up to 25 years in prison. And then some states label it drug-induced homicide or drug delivery resulting in death. Don't specifically use the words murder or manslaughter, so it varies from state to state as to which you would get, but that's kind of how they label it. Then there's some other places like Arizona, for example, where 3 of us are, Georgia, where you are, Ashley, and a couple of other states. They use the drug dealing as a predicate felony in the murder statute, which is enough to elevate it to a felony murder, making it a first degree. So they get at it in a roundabout direction. They don't have a specific law for it, but they tack it on and make it a felony murder because of that.
Right.
So a lot of different ways to handle it. Pennsylvania, totally different. You have to have intentionally delivered it, knowing it would cause death. So there's a loophole there. In Delaware, it has to be at least a gram that you sold somebody. If not, it doesn't count. Florida, it only applies if the dealer is over 18. In Colorado, it only applies if it's a minor who sells it on school grounds. So there's all sorts of weirdness out there. But that kind of sets the stage for the various things that can happen, and I don't want to monopolize more time. I just wanted to give some ideas of how different states handle it. But who wants to start us off here this evening? Don't everybody go at once. I'll start us off.
I was gonna say I was gonna wait for Bailey because he's normally the one that opens it
I'll
up.
start
But
us off. So I've thought about this, and when I was done, I thought about it some more. And here's where I'm at right now: fry 'em. I am of the opinion, if you're dealing drugs and somebody dies, I'm okay with a first-degree felony. This guy was a second degree. It was a second-degree murder. It's still first-degree felony, but I think a second-degree murder is still a first-degree felony. Yeah, but I'm okay. I'm okay with putting them away. That's where I'm at the moment. I've seen too many people destroyed by drugs. I'm not a fan of them, and that's where I'm at. That wasn't necessarily where I was at when we started watching that Judge Wolf case and debating it in the chat as we were watching it, but after thinking about it, it's kind of where I am now, because this is a problem, and it has to stop because we're just destroying ourselves. That's where I am. Feel free to change my mind.
So how this hearing outlined was the first witness was, I believe, a family member of the victim and spoke essentially of forgiveness and forgave the defendant who was was found guilty of this crime. The second witness was the probation officer who wrote the PSI report. And what was interesting in that report was he told the probation officer that he never sold these drugs to this victim, and that there was an intermediary that was actually in fact doing this. So in other words, he's not taking full responsibility for this when he's talking to his probation officer prior to sentencing, because prior to sentencing, you have a pre-sentencing investigation. That's a PSI report. This guy didn't really take responsibility there. So that comes up during sentencing. The judge has to consider this. He had 4 separate meth convictions in a very short amount of time, 4 of them in 2022. He got 5 years. He messed that up. Third witness was a detective. They did the controlled buys. They know this guy is a nuisance in the community. He's selling drugs, and he's doing it over and over and over again. The fourth and final witness was a character witness. I believe it was an uncle. To sum up where the state, their argument was, state goes first, the defense, there was an allocution, and then the judge. The state argues the defendant knew of the death of this victim and continued to sell drugs. These are Schedule II drugs. They're very powerful. And the dealer knew that these drugs are very powerful. The defense say he's not a career criminal. Ha ha. Okay. 4 times in 2022, but okay. He struggles with addiction. Oof. Lots of people do. I do. No intent or malice. Legitimate argument. He has mental health issues. Hey, I struggle with those from time to time. He didn't have an initiative to go out there and try to kill anybody. And, I'm sorry, he has initiative while he's been incarcerated. He's been showing initiative behind bars. He's learning trades while he's incarcerated. And, of course, we can never forget this. He's a father. I bet George Boyd would ask, how old are your kids? He does the allocution. He takes responsibility. It sounds pretty legit. He wants to work on getting over drugs. That's his goal. That was his first goal. That kind of had me, I don't know, maybe you should be thinking about, I don't know.
He wants to work on it?
Yeah, like he wants to work on getting sober. That I guess that was the problem, but I don't know. So now it's time for the judge. Judge Wolf comes in. This is Tennessee, guys. Judge Wolf, first off, thanks the defense attorney, Mr. Day, who steps in. I guess he had to swoop in during the sentencing and did a very fine job of making a very good defense on behalf of Jordan Knight. Excuse me, on behalf of, did I write his name down? No, I wrote down the victim, Jordan Knight. But the defense did a really good job. So defense says, look, I got to look at danger, widespread community impact of this action. He's facing 15 to 25. At the time, I thought to give him maybe 16 years. I don't know why I thought that, but I thought 16 years was quite a bit of time. He's not eligible for probation. He has to do 100% of all this time. And I'm going to pause there. I have more notes, but I did filibuster a little bit. But that is essentially the outline of the hearing and the outline of the separate arguments.
Gotcha.
And he got 22.
Yeah.
Yes, he
Yep.
did. And the judge said it's kind of in the middle of the range. And that, I guess that was his rationale. I'm not a judge, but I thought 16 was, quite a bit of time to sit there and think about,
Like Bailey was saying, the max for that offense is 25 for second-degree murder. I thought it should have been considered manslaughter at first until I read the statutes. Tennessee is the one of the states, like Dan was saying, that dealing drugs or certain drugs classify it as a second-degree murder. And there was also aggravating factors involved that also pushed it up. Because I looked at other cases in Tennessee, and the average is 15 years. That's the average that people get when distributing drugs. But there were aggravating factors like they were mentioning a leadership role, risk to human life, prior convictions. It's not the first time this guy has, like we mentioned, dealt with drugs. And so that just came back and hit him pretty hard, because otherwise I think he would have only gotten 15 years. Also, there's also fentanyl involved. It wasn't just an overdose. There was fentanyl involved in those drugs. So I think that also had some kind of contributing factor.
Yeah.
that was a D
Boing.
sharp augmented.
That was an F for Freya.
I think that would also be a contributing factor, because I don't think, because I don't want to victim shame. Because at first I thought, well, it's kind of the victim's problem taking these drugs in the first place or buying these from the dealer. But the more I think about it, because of his prior offenses, it's yeah, he's doing harm to the public, and I do not blame the judge from maximizing his sentence the way he did. The thing that kind of got me a little bit is that the mental health struggles were not given much weight during the trial. I know, considering all the other factors, yeah, it's like the least amount of circumstance, and the thought that he was trying to better himself wasn't being considered as well very much. But this is not a probational offense. So even if the judge wanted to give him that, he couldn't under Tennessee law.
You made a key point. Go ahead.
Yeah. So really, if it was between murder and manslaughter, I'm siding more toward murder. I don't know if there's third-degree murder, but if there was, I would side more toward that than second degree. But yeah, I think murder was the right call on this one.
Well,
I'll come back to the third versus second thing, but I want to finish up on the judge's considerations. He mentions that judges have to consider confinement to protect the community. That's one of their considerations. The sentencing shouldn't depreciate the seriousness of the offense. There needs to be respect for the courts. And so what we're not going to do is just hand out minimums all day like cotton candy or whatever at a circus. We're going to try to deter people from committing these crimes to begin with. In this case, and in all cases, judges have to consider least restrictive. In this particular guy's case, he couldn't handle least restrictive. He messed it up after those 4 cases. I believe he got 5 years probation. Messed it up. So, hey, we've tried that. Rehab ain't gonna work, all those other things. He considered mitigating, aggravating, previous history. The previous history. What his biggest thing was, he said this defendant had, quote, no hesitation to continue selling these drugs that he knew killed this individual. And he was found guilty of it. Whether he admits to this probation officer during the PSI that, well, I don't really think I actually gave the drugs, but if you want to him and haw about that, that's on you. You're still, you just look like a, so, it kind of showed, and then the judge said it, it shows no remorse or a lack of responsibility for your role in the death of somebody who relied on you for their fix. To get to the third, I didn't look up what third is, but I did look up what second is in Tennessee. And the lawyer said it's an emphasis on the knowing killing of another. And he said one of the factors, and this is the other factor that I wrote down, is there is a course of conduct factor under a second degree felony murder. So let's say I'm beating my wife and I have a history of domestic violence, of beating my spouse, and then after 3 years of a history of this, she happens to die at my hand. Tennessee could find me under that second degree murder in lieu of manslaughter or these other things. I guess my final point that Ashley certainly touched on, guys, the state legislature made the law. They wrote the law. And what I think happened, I'm postulating here, I didn't look this up. I think what Tennessee was facing was a drug problem in their community, in their states, and it was an issue. And the legislature ratcheted up the punishment for these types of crimes, made mandatory minimums from 15 to 25. You want to engage in this kind of behavior? You want to sell these drugs on these streets? Guess what? You're going to be facing this. This is a risk. Every time you sell drugs, you are rolling the dice. Just like these guys who are buying these drugs, you are rolling the dice.
And this was a recent this is a recent revamp they did of that law. So yes.
Okay, so we're going to find out how this experiment works. But what we're trying to discuss is, well, is this like I don't know, philosophically appropriate? Who do you punish? Do you punish the guy who took the drugs and OD'd on them? Or do you punish the guy who sold it? Well, in Tennessee,
it's hard.
The legislature, the whole system of government over there was like, hey,
Well,
government
it's hard.
signed it,
It's hard to punish
law.
the person that's dead. That's the thing. Like, there's nothing that can be done with that. So of course they're going to go after the guy that is dealing with the drugs.
But I don't know. I got
I get
a lot more feelings. I got a lot more thoughts. So I got just through the homework portion. I got, how much time do I got left till 40 minutes? I got to beat my record. Oh.
Michael, what say you?
Well, I guess it's my week to be the contrarian. Hot take, but I think the person that OD'd is really the problem. The person that's doing the drugs is the problem. They're the one that's, there wouldn't be a need for someone to sell them drugs if they didn't have an addiction or if they didn't want to have them in the first place. We're supposedly stressing personal responsibility and accountability in this country, and that's a problem that we sorely lack in this society.
Right.
And yet what we want to do is punish somebody else and say, it's your fault that he did the drugs. It's like, well, no, unless dude held him down and shoved a needle in his arm or held him down and forced him to sniff coke, I don't really see how he is more culpable or more dangerous to society than the person that actually does them. Not that I'm one of those people that thinks that, we put way too many people in prison for drugs anyway. It's just ridiculous. Not saying that drugs are just great and wonderful and everyone should go out and do meth. No, but it is insane that we put somebody away for 25 years because guess what's going to happen? Nothing. You're not going to reduce it's not going to deter people from doing drugs. Oh, I might get 25 years. Well, okay, great. Do you think that suddenly drug crime is going to drop in Tennessee? Boy, I feel a lot safer because they might get 25. No, you want to solve a problem, then do things to prevent it in the first place. Don't have reactionary criminal justice. That is ridiculous. That's the biggest problem we have in this country is that everything is reactionary. We react instead of proact. That's why I hate the way that this is handled. And again, am I going to lose sleep because this guy's in prison? Not really, but I think it's crazy. Yeah, we punish the bartender that sells the alcoholic too many drinks, right? If they go out and cause an accident. Well, we don't always, but sometimes we do. Mm-hmm. If you hold a party at your house and obviously if you're giving drinks to minors, that's a little bit different, kinda. But it just seems to me that it's not. If the argument is, oh, we're making the streets safer, BS. That is a ridiculous argument. And it has been forever. Drugs, more and more people do drugs now than have ever done them before, and we keep ratcheting up the punishment. That's obviously not the solution.
All right, well, allow me to engage, if I may, real quick on your ridiculous argument. So, first off, I want to clarify something with my stance. I have no sympathy, to be honest with you, for the guy who overdosed. He made his choices. I'm sorry. But where I would draw the line between some of the examples that you gave, Michael, is that the drug dealer is engaging in an illegal act that is resulting in the death of another, as opposed to the bartender who is legally selling a cocktail to somebody, as opposed to the gun shop who is legally selling a firearm to somebody, as opposed to the auto dealer who is legally selling a car to somebody. All these cases where you could go back to the supplier and say, hey, it's your fault. In those cases, they're engaging in legal activities when they sell this stuff. In the case of the drug dealer, they are engaging in an illegal activity when they sell this stuff. And ultimately, it comes down to supply side versus demand side, not just an economic thing, but a drug thing too. Now, I am not in favor of putting a drug user in jail because they used drugs. I think those people need help more than they need trouble.
Yeah, rehab.
But I am more and more becoming of the opinion to take a drug dealer, put them in there, and throw away the key, especially if what they're selling results in the death of somebody else, because this is a serious problem. And especially when you look at the fentanyl now that's coming into the United States in droves, and it's coming in from our enemies. Most of that fentanyl traces back to China.
Well, again, I'm not here to...
They're just trying to destroy us from the inside at this point, and it's that's a war, and that war has to be stopped.
And I'm not here saying, yay, drug dealer, let's let them all out. No, again, I'm not going to sit here and lose sleep because a drug dealer's behind bars. I just think if the motivation for doing it is deter crime, that's a BS motivation. It's just like, to me, the death penalty, if the death penalty is let's deter crime with the death penalty or deter people from killing people, that's a ridiculous reason to do it, because it doesn't, and it's proven that it doesn't, Well,
I don't think that you deter crime by putting a drug user in jail. Unless you're putting them in jail for another crime that they've committed. But just putting them in jail for using drugs, no, I don't think that helps anything. I don't know if it's a deterrent, but I think you have to take the dealers and you have to put them away, because at some point that network has to be busted up. It has to be kept in check as much as possible, or we will continue to destroy ourselves.
Again, I'm not. I just it's one of those things where it's like, let's put a guy away for 25 years and pat ourselves on the back that we just solved a problem. When if we really want to solve the problem, what needs to start happening is we need to start cutting it off at an early age and have better education about things. Something that's not the stupid DARE program that you and I grew up with, Dan, which was
preventative measures.
So proper education, family involvement, those things that I tend to talk about a lot.
Yeah, I'm talking about, grassroots, like community building and things like that. Because, again, I'm not, because somebody's going to misunderstand and say, oh, Mike thinks drug dealers are awesome. I don't. But I think that what we're doing is we're going after the tumor instead of what's causing the tumor. And that's the problem.
Well, I think you have to do both. If you have a tumor, that tumor has to be cut out.
Yeah, you do, but you got to stop more tumors from popping up. I mean, that's the thing too, and we're not doing that. We're clearly we've given up on that.
That goes back to those old-timey ideas that I always talk about, that everybody goes, "Oh, that old guy," but they worked. Teaching, raising like proper children to do proper things and having like 2-parent households and stuff like that to help, deter some of this stuff at an early age, I think is what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, that's, and it's, in the schools and all this. And listen, I don't think I told this story on here. I know I've told it off air. The first time I was ever offered drugs was right here in good old Phoenix, Arizona at Catalina. When I was in elementary school at 2nd grade, this like 7th grade kid puts a joint in my hand and it's like, hey man, you want to smoke up? And it's like, do some grass, which, was the term at the time for weed.
Do some grass. Yeah,
smoke some grass. And we didn't touch grass, we smoked grass. Anyway, and of course I didn't, but I didn't smoke marijuana until I was 32 years old. Late bloomer, I guess. But I have to say that I immediately was like, nah, man, I'm good. Thanks though. And, I just knew better because my parents are like, hey, dude, let's don't do drugs. I mean, pretty much let's not do that. This is why. And we were educated as to why. It wasn't just say no, because telling kids just say no is stupid. Right. You have to tell them why it's bad and like really give a good reason. Like, hey, it does this for you and you feel good about this, but then what happens is all your teeth fall out, not from weed, but from meth and all this other stuff, That's the other thing is don't lie to your kids and say, if you do meth, the devil comes and swallows your soul immediately. Don't like overdo it, but just tell them what happens and be honest about it and have a real conversation and stress what happens. And I think that goes a long way. Again, community building and all this. I suppose I sound like I'm about 90 right now, but I'm just saying, I think that, just locking up someone 25 years and saying, we did it, is like, I just kind of came away with not the greatest feeling about that. Again, not saying I'm happy or I'm sad that the guy's gone, he's in prison, but it's like, it just felt kind of hollow to me.
Well, let me ask you this, Michael. Was there something about that hearing that made you feel at the end they were like, okay, we're all done? Was there something? 'Cause I'm not understanding where your interpretation of that hearing was, okay, we've done our job, we're good now.
Because it's like they excoriated him and they're like, hey, you done bad and now you're gonna learn your lesson and And okay, cool. But I mean, I think the part where I got that message is we have to protect the community. And
Yeah.
I think protecting the community, yeah, we're protecting it, I guess, in the sense that, okay, we're eliminating this tumor, but we're not really addressing the problem. And,
Well,
I just,
Michael,
I wonder-
I'm sorry. I'm lost here as to where you're going, and I'm really trying to understand because I don't get how you walk away from that hearing and go, they're not really addressing the problem, because isn't this maybe perhaps one step in addressing the problem?
I guess it's a
where
step.
where I'm
I don't
lost
know.
is, where is it? How is it that you're defining that as being their finish line?
Because it seems to me like we're ratcheting up the punishments, but it doesn't seem like it's making a difference.
Well, this was a
Doesn't seem. I'm
recent.
going to try to find some data. You guys talk amongst yourselves.
This was a
And maybe I'm wrong, but I really don't feel like, and maybe it's a perception thing, and I'm willing to totally admit if I'm wrong, but my perception is, because look, when I was growing up in the 80s, marijuana, 80s and 90s, marijuana, was, of course, it's still around and prevalent, but now it's been either decriminalized or legalized in almost every state outside of, backwards places like Nebraska. It's, but it was like cocaine and all that. And, now though it's meth and it's fentanyl, which I guess are cheaper solutions, much more easy to get out on the streets. And I think that stuff is far more prevalent than cocaine ever was. And cocaine is like way less dangerous than fentanyl and meth and
agreed.
and all that. And yet here we go. I think that, and maybe this is not so much a discussion about court and how this particular hearing goes, but maybe I'm more reacting to a larger, broader scope of, okay, well, we're putting away a drug dealer for 20 years. Cool. But yet we haven't really stemmed the tide. We haven't really pushed back the tide of drugs in society.
And I think that's why, Michael, I think that's why they recently made this change from I don't know what it was prior, but they just made this change that is a second degree murder. They just kind of added the drugs into that. So I don't think it's been perhaps long enough to see any results.
Maybe
if that's
not.
what you're saying.
Maybe not. I call me cynical, I guess. I guess maybe I'm just I've been around long enough just to say like, well, I don't know. We keep kind of increasing the punishments on some things.
Right.
And maybe it's when people get caught the first time with something, we don't hit them hard enough initially. And then we counterbalance it by hitting them really hard later.
Right.
But maybe we kind of find a middle ground to where when people get caught with drugs or trying to distribute drugs, we give them enough of a slap to where it really sets in. And we also try not just to slap, but to also help. And, some states, I think, do a better job of it than others. I don't know how Tennessee is in that regard. I will full well admit that.
Well, he didn't get this until he until he killed somebody. You know what I mean? So that first time.
I guess my thing is too is
deprivation.
the responsibility should always be on the person that did the thing. Like, if you hand me drugs, how is it your fault that I'm dead because I decide to be stupid?
I'm not saying he's at fault.
Right. Well, now, and again, I get why I get what they were trying to do with the alcohol stuff too. But I mean, even that I think is dumb as well. It's like, look, you don't know if I'm an alcoholic or not. You served me one too many drinks. I got behind the wheel of a car and drove, and now you're facing charges because you sold me an extra drink. That's also stupid.
I agree that's stupid because he's engaging in a legal activity there.
Right.
Yeah.
But okay, but even if it was legal, like marijuana is legal, even though it's not legal on a federal level, which is another conversation. But it doesn't matter to me. It's like you give me something, I do something stupid because you did that. You gave me that thing. I mean, I could have just gotten it somewhere else, but I got it from you. So now you're on the hot seat because of my stupidity.
He didn't know it was laced with fentanyl, though, and I think
Nobody
that's
did. Arguably, nobody did.
Nobody
They
did.
didn't-
Yeah,
they didn't
exactly.
stipulate that, but it was mentioned
Right.
that.
right.
Yeah, they said there was an element of fentanyl in this, and that was it. That was all.
And to me, that's like you're playing the stupid lottery. If you buy drugs off the street, you're playing the stupid lottery, and you're probably going to win. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a small part of me that feels bad for somebody that is addicted to things. Of course, I feel bad for people that have addictions.
Right.
We all know
himself is
somebody that.
addicted.
Yeah, we all know somebody that has addictions, right? Like, but everybody has an alcoholic in their family or a drug user in their family or somebody, like me that just can't stop eating chocolate. I mean, it's that way.
That's fine.
But
Yeah.
it's like, you can only do so much. And so that's where I'm at with this. I don't know. Again, I'm full well admitting I could very well be wrong and that maybe this will work. And this is the golden gun and we've solved it, but I don't know.
I've got some Tennessee data for you. It doesn't directly tie into this law, so I don't know. And thank you, Bailey, for the $1.99 super sticker to your own show. I appreciate that. So this is 2023 data, which is the most recent.
All right.
In 2023, overall OD deaths fell 5.5% from the previous year. Opioid deaths fell 5%. Fentanyl-related deaths 3% down. Prescription opioid fell 19%, but interestingly, there was a 21% increase in cocaine overdose.
Oh, I think it's getting cheap.
Yeah, that's probably it.
Well, and I think part of the opioid, the small decrease in prescription opioid overdose, because we've stopped, some of that stuff they've stopped prescribing entirely, or they've really, really heavily regulated that.
Right.
Some of that, and I think some of it is cyclical too. Like cocaine coming back in some areas is maybe because again in the 80s and 90s it was
like
big and then it
coming back.
It disappeared. Yeah, people are going retro. Hey man, let's do cocaine. This is so 80s, man.
And it's safer than fentanyl. There's no fentanyl in it, so it's kind of like the safe kind of stimulant. I can see that.
It's like e-cigs, but those are not really safe either. But
Nope.
So
yeah,
I you guys know I didn't sleep so well last night, so I woke up at like 11:30 and I only got like 2 hours sleep, and I was like, and I fell back asleep, and then it was like 12:45. So as one does, you start thinking about ideas for Sidebar at 12:45 in the morning, even though you have to go to work that next morning,
Yeah.
And an odd topic came up because I want to have a philosophical conversation, but it fits here, so stick with me.
Okay.
This topic is inspired by an HBO show where they kind of touched on this topic, and that's what ran through my mind was the dialogue of that show was he was engaging in something he knew was risky. So that's how I'm setting the stage, so you don't think I'm all crazy, which you guys already know I am. So I don't even know why I gave you the preamble. So we all have this thing called dopamine. It makes us feel good. It's a feel-good drug. So Mike touched on it. He loves food. You got to take that chocolate away from him, So he gets a dopamine response from that. Sex, you get a dopamine response from that. And that's a good hormone. The reason why we have this hormone is it's a survival hormone. The reason why we keep eating every day and it's kind of like, oh, I'm hungry, and then when I eat, I feel so much better after this, is because you get a dopamine response to keep you alive. The reason why we have so many people, it's because we get attracted to each other, and that activity makes us feel good. Same thing with, like, let's say a saber-toothed tiger like chases after us, and me and Mike somehow get away and climb a tree, or Mike just throws me in the tree because he's bigger than me, and then I have to, and then we like laugh up in the tree, and then we kind of laugh. We get a dopamine response from laughter. Alcohol, this gives Bailey a dopamine hit. Drugs do that, which got me at 12:46 in the morning, 1 minute later, because my brain's going that fast. I was like, autoerotic asphyxiation. It's a risky behavior.
Well,
A
this
sexual
took a turn.
behavior. That's why I
Suddenly, I'm not the craziest person here, Dan.
That's why I staged this and set it up, all right? These individuals could be found, and it could appear to be a suicide, right? But
Yes, Bailey.
they're also engaging in something that's giving them a dopamine response. They're addicted to this. And, so who's to judge, if somebody's addicted to food? Oh my God, I can't stop eating cookies, or, they're addicted to sex or really risky type of behaviors. Are we really going to start policing this and legislating this? And again, this is less a legal question and more a philosophical question. Way less, because I'm on the board of, you guys know me, the legislature said this is the law of the land of Tennessee. I'm all for it. This is what they say. This is a philosophical question. Are we going to start regulating my alcohol? I mean, I know this is dangerous. This is cancerous. I drink it every day. But that's my choice. It's a legal thing. Sex is legal. As long as I'm not breaking the law in certain regards. So that's the question that came up to me at 12:49, and then Bailey gently fell back to sleep and then slept for only another hour. So
This has been Sexual Deviancy with Bailey.
I didn't say.
So let me make sure. I just want to recap this very, very quickly.
At
So
12,
so you
like
wake up
12:30
in
at night.
the middle of the night, you're like, hold on, I got to take down some notes. Hang on. Let's see. All right, let's see here. We got, all right, autoerotic asphyxiation. How's that? Okay, I got to bring that up on Sidebar. Like, how? The train of thought that's an Amtrak train of thought if I've ever heard one in my life, Bailey. That is wild.
I'm
That
proud
is
that I can
wild.
pick on myself and be, I can pick on myself. So. That's a true
I'm gonna
story.
give you credit, Bailey. That is maybe the hardest right turn we have ever had. I mean, that was hard to starboard. Helm's hard over, sir. Wow, you steered around that iceberg and into a much bigger iceberg. I mean,
Yeah.
I think
was
Bo is losing it right now in
suddenly.
Australia. He's having his cup of coffee right now, and he's like, "What?"
So Dan, what were you saying about me being ridiculous again?
I didn't say you were ridiculous. I thought it was great that you and I were like disagreeing on something, because that never happens.
I know it really doesn't.
It was refreshing. And then all of a sudden Bailey's like, yeah, I totally get this whole drug argument, but people who hang themselves while pleasuring themselves, that's the real discussion here. That's what we really got to get into.
It is called Sidebar. I mean, this is definitely
I can't even say anything.
I mean, so to go to you, Dan, and Mike's argument, my thing is,
this is both the best and worst episode we've ever had.
Yes.
So-
it is.
Simultaneously. I don't know. This show is suddenly, this should be on 5 days a week and also never.
Yeah.
So my positionality, based on that argument,
It's hanging.
Because it seems like nobody wants to actually engage in the argument. They just want to pick on
okay.
you.
Okay.
So, no.
Well, I don't
I'm gonna give
understand
my
the
answer.
argument.
I think I do.
Sorry, I got the
Okay,
floor.
please.
I've got the floor. The person who is engaging in that drug, they're trying to get their dopamine hit. I don't care what people want to do. That's on you. You OD'd. I don't know if you had a bad day. Let's say I'm your drug dealer, and you're depressed, and you're just like, today I want to OD. This is my choice. I'm going to take way too much and OD. That drug dealer doesn't know what you know what I mean? So to me, it's on the person who's using this, not on the drug dealer, not at all. Get the drug dealer for dealing drugs. Now, how the range of punishment for that, I don't know. That's not up for me. That's for a legislature. But no, absolutely. If you want to put a belt around your neck and pleasure yourself, or you want to smoke meth, just to go to your argument, Mike, nobody put that in your mouth. Nobody put that chocolate in your mouth, Mike. So
True.
But eating chocolate is legal, and doing meth is not legal.
Not the amount I eat.
Well, I mean, yeah, but being illegal doesn't stop somebody from taking it, and being legal doesn't stop somebody from abusing it. I can go to McDonald's every 5 minutes and just eat my face off if I wanted to. But just because it's legal doesn't make it right. I mean, are we talking about, people acting irresponsibly and how that interconnects with law? That's exactly what we're talking about, is human behavior and how it overlaps and intersects with law. So in Tennessee, the way they've done it is, well, we've got a lot of people who are dying of drug overdoses. So we need to update our laws, and that's a natural reaction. And there's plenty of data. I wish I had access to all of my college research stuff, because it's not like Google. You know that, Ashley. You can actually get real research shit. I would love to dig into the weeds of this and be like, hey, what's the correlation between, you're in statistics right now, what's the correlation between increased sentencings with drug-related crimes? What's the data show on that? So I would love to dig in those weeds and see any kind of correlations, or maybe not. So that's kind of my positionality on it. Sorry, I had to get that out. Thank you very much.
So Grandma TCF just commented, bottom line, we're all responsible for what we put into or do with our bodies. Agreed. The drug dealer chose to use his body to sell drugs. He used his hands, he used his brain,
and also
he used
the one
himself
that
to sell drugs that ended up in the death of somebody. I have no sympathy for the dude who OD'd. He made his choices. But that doesn't excuse the guy who engaged in the illegal activity that resulted in the death of somebody. I'm sorry, it doesn't. Now, when we were watching this Judge Wolf thing, I was openly questioning, should this be murder or should it be manslaughter? But
I don't
thought
think
about
it
it.
Murder, man. I just don't. I
do.
just don't. Because to me, to murder somebody is, I point a gun at you, or I stab you and kill you. I shoot you. That you don't have a choice in the matter if I do that. You have no choice. I am choosing what happens to your life. Dan, I could hand you 16 kilos of cocaine, and if you don't do it, there's, what's the only thing I've done is engage in distribution of drugs, which is illegal. Great. But, you're not stupid enough to do cocaine. So, what have I done? I mean, that's the thing. Like, somebody engaging in that kind of behavior, as long as they have control over it, I don't see how that's murder.
However, Tennessee explicitly states that it is murder, according to
I just looked it up.
I
Second
get
degree murder in Tennessee is any of the following: a knowing killing of another person, a killing that results from unlawful distribution of a Schedule I or Schedule II drug,
right,
or a killing caused by an unlawful distribution of fentanyl or carfentanil.
Right. But I just, my thing about that is I just think that, to me, murder implies that you are taking the control out of somebody else's hands and you are deciding to take their life.
Agreed.
Willingly or by your depraved action. Like, in other words, you get behind the wheel of a car and you decide you're gonna either you're gonna throw down a and just run somebody over or whatever it is that you decide to do, whatever your method of choice is, and you take it out of somebody else's hands, that to me is murder. Manslaughter is a little different because we have voluntary and involuntary vehicular there's different kinds of things like where you act recklessly, and that's a little different. Then we can start having a different conversation. But to me, murder is like you have no control. If I hand you cocaine, you have control over, or meth or whatever, you have control over what it is you're going to do. Again, unless I stick the needle in your arm, then we can call that murder.
I don't entirely disagree with you, Michael. I'm just saying it's black and white on paper, and so overall, that's why I originally thought it was manslaughter, because I did not know the state statutes, and I thought that if it's unintentional, of course it would be manslaughter. I wouldn't think it would be second-degree murder.
Well, there's not much of a difference looking at Tennessee law. So Tennessee does not have involuntary manslaughter. They have voluntary manslaughter, which they define as the intentional or knowing killing committed in a state of passion produced by adequate provocation that would cause a reasonable person to act irrationally. That's a Class B felony.
Right. That's like you get in a bar fight and you just pick up a stool, crank somebody over the head, and you kill them. I mean, that would be manslaughter.
And then instead of involuntary manslaughter, they have reckless homicide, and they have criminally negligent homicide. Those are the two things that they use instead of involuntary manslaughter. But here's something that just came to mind that is a question. We often hear the term known or should have known when it comes to somebody's culpability for something. Mm-hmm. So can you argue that a drug dealer either knew or should have known that the stuff he's peddling has the ability to cause somebody to overdose?
Right.
Oh, I'm trying to think about, if I was a defense attorney, what would I be saying up there? That's what I'm trying to think about.
Well, now we could get into a real
known or should have known.
We can get into a real philosophical debate because
that means that there will be no drug dealers in the world type
known
thing.
or should have known implies that we have an educated public.
Well, somebody's education isn't our problem, is it, Michael?
Even if they're on meth.
It's supposed to be our problem.
Well, you know what I mean. When we get to this point, it's not my problem that you chose not to complete school.
Right. I mean, yeah, but yeah, it's one of those things that known or should have known. I don't know. It's hard. See, here's the thing too, and that's when we get into a calls for speculation, like should have known. Well, how can we know what someone should have known? How do we know what's, within the operation of someone's mind?
Well, once he kills somebody and kept on dealing, he should have known that by that, I would think.
That's another interesting fact of that case. He was dealing after that.
Those elements,
Plus,
Mike.
Isn't it reasonable to assume that if you are dealing in illegal drugs that have a history of causing overdoses? Isn't it then reasonable to assume that the drugs you are selling could cause an overdose? Should you not have known at that point that the product you're peddling could result in the death of somebody?
Maybe. I mean, that's the thing is,
I want to riff it, but I don't think I could.
No, you can't.
I want to do my homework. I don't know.
I mean, because
that's a good point.
This is the path I went down when I arrived to the idea that I was fine with the murder charge and the murder conviction, because you're engaging in an activity that you know or should have known can cause somebody to die. Mm-hmm. You're giving them stuff that can cause them to die.
So Dan, do you think? Let me ask you this though: do you think that if you get out and drunk drive and kill somebody, should you be charged with murder?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I do. Now, I don't think that's on the bartender.
Well, okay,
because
it's
the
not.
bartender is engaging in a legal activity at that point of selling alcohol to somebody.
But if
And
the
it shouldn't be
bartender,
and it should not be up to him to determine where that guy's tolerance is for alcohol.
Oh no, it absolutely is by law, Dan. Whether you
I,
liked it or
yeah,
not.
I get what you're saying. I'm giving you my
Right.
opinion.
yeah.
My
There's a
opinion
difference
on
between the
things.
law and opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, right now I'm on opinion, not on law. My opinion
Right.
is it should not be up to that guy because he is engaged in a legal business.
And I
Right.
agree.
Right.
I agree.
Now-
It
He
shouldn't.
doesn't have a
Here-
breathalyzer there. Just no.
Now
You have to
here,
maintain a license. Yeah.
now
that's all.
here we have a guy who is in an illegal business, and in my mind, that changes everything at that point.
Right.
If you're going
Well-
to engage in something illegal, you have culpability.
It's
So he
illegal for a
should be charged.
reason.
So you're saying he should be charged with murder,
Yes,
and the other guy is a
the
goofball
drug
for taking
dealer,
the
not
drugs.
not the bartender.
Oh no, I meant the drug dealer. Your
Yeah,
analogy.
no,
your analogy.
the drug dealer should be charged absolutely because
Right,
he's engaging in an illegal activity to start with, and
Now-
that's actually what they do here in Arizona, as I read earlier, is they tack on that illegal drug dealing onto it to elevate it to a felony murder.
So if the bartender
used as an
sells to a
elevator.
minor, though, and they go out and kill
Well,
somebody,
at that
No,
point,
that's
it's an
illegal.
illegal activity.
Yeah.
so
He's selling to a minor.
yeah, I mean, if he knew it was a minor, I suppose you'd have to,
Well, yeah, I mean, if the minor produces an ID that's
Fake
convincing
ID,
and that comes
yeah.
out in court, then at that point it kind of exonerates the bartender as long as
Right. Yeah.
he did his job and the ID was at least legit looking. But
I don't
that's
know.
the line for me. We're talking about legal commerce versus illegal commerce.
To me,
And you can't
yeah.
look at it the same way. The guy doing illegal
yeah.
commerce, there's culpability there.
Now here's where it gets messy, though, Dan. Now in some states, like in Oregon, they've either decriminalized or legalized things like mushrooms and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So you give somebody mushrooms, and even though generally speaking, people that do mushrooms don't want to, the last thing they want to do is get behind the wheel of a car, right? But
Yeah. Tripped out.
But say they do and kill somebody. I mean, it is a legal act in that state to, have mushrooms. Then what do you do?
But is it legal to have mushrooms while driving?
driving
Well,
while
yeah, at that
intoxicated
point,
or
it's driving while
yeah.
intoxicated.
Yeah.
It's-
Under
it's
the
the
Right,
same
but I
thing
mean, the
as-
person that distributed it to them is what I'm saying, or gave them the mushrooms.
No, if it's legal, if they got it through legal means.
But no
Yeah.
different than me taking this and abusing it and then.
But even though it's not legal on the federal level, see, this is like one of those things where it's like our laws are so screwy.
Now that's the thing. The feds could choose to come in and charge it if
Sure.
they wanted.
Correct.
So far, in these states where the stuff has become legal, the feds have chosen to leave it alone.
Yeah,
But
and
they don't
I
have
think,
to.
yeah, and maybe that's a topic for another day about, why is it that, marijuana is still illegal on a federal level,
Yeah.
but you don't
here,
see the
too.
feds shutting down all the dispensaries and cutting off all the distribution of marijuana in most of these states where we have medical and, and recreational weed yet.
Like all government agencies, they choose which laws they will and will not enforce because there's only so much manpower to enforce so much. But from a technical standpoint, marijuana is illegal across the United States, regardless of what your personal state says,
Right.
because of the supremacy clause. So, but right now, everybody's just lucky that the feds don't want to mess with it. But if they
And
ever change their minds, it's going to be interesting.
I enjoy it every time I smoke.
Yeah. Well, it's one of those things where, yeah, states are going to have, it's going to go nuts one of these days. That's going to be a fascinating road to go down.
It might, yeah. Well, we're about ready to wrap it up here per our normal arrangement. We have solved nothing. But Mike
Really
and I
haven't.
had a good debate, which we
I
didn't normally
like
do.
that. It's different. It's not us telling Bailey that he's wrong. It's,
I know.
it's telling
us
me.
telling each other that they're wrong.
Yeah,
That's all right.
which is fine. That's good. Dan and I are always probably viewed as the old bald guys are going to just agree about everything. And what's weird is that there's a lot of stuff we probably disagree about, but it just so happens that when it comes to law stuff, law tube kind of stuff, and these kind of court things, we're generally on the same side of this stuff. But yeah,
Normally.
normally.
Bailey, final thoughts?
Responsibly keep your dopamine levels up. Don't do any high risk behavior, and eat right and engage in other healthy activities in responsible ways. Because you don't want to be going out there and don't do drugs, kids. Just don't do it. Because my goodness, your life can be turned upside down. I cannot imagine what that man was thinking when he was facing his sentencing, and when he heard 22, and you're done. And I had a lot of feelings, and I think that's what fired us all up. It was like, wait a minute, I don't know, is this, because I still right now I don't know how I feel about it, but I don't know. He's going to be there for 22 years, and we're going to forget him. So don't go out there acting a fool. Be responsible. Be nice to people. Otherwise, you just may be featured on Sidebar.
Ashley?
If you're going to take drugs, take them for yourself and don't give them to others. Just do yourself a favor. It always pretty much ends bad. That includes murder or anything else. Do it to yourself, not to other people. You don't know who you're affecting when you're doing that. I don't think it's in this community at all, but just FYI. And it's also interesting to see how different states laws differ, especially in this case with the Tennessee laws versus across the West. It's interesting. So I learned a lot today, and I'll see you next time on Sidebar.
Mikey.
I didn't think we were going to go down the road we did tonight.
Yeah.
We did kind of went the Michael Hutchins road there from In Excess.
But it will never tear us apart, Michael.
It will. Well, that's what you need, Dan. So I tell you, this was maybe the greatest episode of Sidebar, and I appreciate each and every one of you and all of you that watch and are in our chat and everything. And this was lively and exciting. And so let's do it again on Thursday, shall we?
We shall.
Yeah, we
I'm going to
shall.
use the word "this was different" and just leave it at that.
Yeah.
This whole discussion, though, comes down to one thing for me anyways, and it's something that you hear me say a lot because, unfortunately, if you follow me, you've figured out that I preach from time to time, or always, but do the next right thing. If people would just do the next right thing, we wouldn't have to have these discussions on Sidebar, would we? We wouldn't be talking about the drug dealer and whether or not he should have gotten murder or manslaughter because he would have done the next right thing and not dealt drugs. We wouldn't talk about the poor guy who lost his life from the fentanyl-laced stuff that he got from the drug dealer because he would have done the next right thing and not done drugs. Mm-hmm. So ultimately, that's what it comes down to, and what I tell everybody in the moment, just moment by moment. It's like a 12-step kind of thing in a way, but just minute by minute, what's the next right thing to do? Do that, and you'll win life. I think that's what it comes down to.
By the way, it works. I can second that. It works.
It does.
Right
That's
on,
why I tell
Dan.
people to do it.
Well said.
The more and more you do it, the easier your life gets. And yes, you will screw up along the way and not do the next right thing, and then kick yourself later that you didn't. But that's
That's
how you
really
learn.
true too.
So, all right, guys, I agree. Let's do this again on Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, and we'll be back tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific for our morning live show, and a half an hour earlier for channel members. In the meantime, this has been fun, guys. So
Yeah.
have a good night and take care. God bless.
Bye.
Bye.